making the headlines tonight. Provincial Royal House requests Apsara Authority to explain use of Baku in ceremony. The new UN Secretary General Special Envoy Noelen Heiser commends Prime Minister Hun Sen for a successful visit to Myanmar. Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesman confirms the postponement of the ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting will not affect the position and role of the ASEAN Special Envoy to Myanmar. Tennis player Novak Djokovic, who has just been released from immigration detention, was seen at a basketball match 2 days prior to testing positive for COVID-19. And a virtual reality experience allowing users to visit Notre Dame Cathedral throughout the ages was launched. This is the Daily Roundup on the EAC News Channel. A very good evening to you. I'm Yuri Matosco. The president of the Siem Reap Provincial Royal House, Angratha Serai, has questioned the Apsara Authority and the Ministry of Culture and Fine Arts on a ceremony held late last year in the Angkor Temple complex. Photos of the Angkor Thanksgiving ceremony held in December 2021 circulated online, which shows performers wearing Baku clothing while performing the ceremony at the Angkor Temple complex on Ba Keng Mountain. Baku are royal servants who are only partake in ceremonies related to the king, such as the water festival. EAC News reporter Darshana Gauchan has more details.
The president of the Siem Reap Provincial Royal House, Angratha Serai, told EAC News on Wednesday that he did not know the purpose of the ceremony and that no Baku group of the royal palace had been sent to the ceremony. He expressed dissatisfaction with this activity and asked the Apsara Authority and the Ministry of Culture and Fine Arts to come forward and explain. He said, "The palace did not know anything. The Baku group that is stationed in the palace did not know anything, but the organizers said it was a real Baku group." EAC News has not yet been able to receive confirmation from Apsara Authority Director General Hang Po, while spokesman Long Kosal said he was temporarily out of work and therefore unable to provide information. Ministry of Culture spokesman Long Ponasirivat said he was unaware of the case and he did not receive any request for comment from the royal palace yet. He said the ministry would respond after they have received the letter. Cultural event observer Mr. Vatanak said that organizing ceremonies to show gratitude to ancestors is not a problem, but what is wrong is to wear Baku clothing since they are only the servants of the king. He added that through his observation, there have been 2 celebrations of people wearing Baku to perform religious ceremonies in the Angkor area, once during the water festival in 2019 and once again on Phnom Bak Kaeng in December 2021. He said that such ceremonies are not a problem and it is fine to celebrate, be happy, and preserve traditions and customs, but it is important that everyone remember their status and not interfere with matters related to the king. Darshana Gauchan, EAC News.
Prime Minister Hun Sen has recommended journalists to fulfill their professional roles, dare to report the truth, and continue to eliminate opportunists who seek personal gain under the banner of the press in order to maintain the dignity of journalists and media institutions. He gave this message to national and international journalists on the occasion of the 6th meeting between the head of the royal government of Cambodia and Cambodian journalists. EAC News reporter Chamron Reid said has more details.
The Prime Minister complimented all journalists for their hard work and news broadcasting, particularly on the coverage of the nationwide COVID-19 vaccination campaign, which helped to contain the COVID outbreak in the kingdom. Prime Minister Hun Sen urged journalists to continue working hard to maintain peace, political stability, security and social order by urging them to increase their partnership with the royal government to continue to fight inactivities, irregularities, corruption and injustice in Cambodia. He urged for a Cambodia that has a clean, transparent society and told journalists continue participating in the fights against failed information in both national and international frameworks and continue destroying opportunists who take refuge under the labels of the press. The Prime Minister said, "We ask our journalists to join the royal government while the government is pushing for state reform to be transparent, which require journalists to fulfill their professional roles and study issues in depth and they are to release the true information, not fact, not distortion of the truth. And journalists must continue to eliminate opportunists who seek personal gain under the label of the press, undermining the practiced values of journalists and the media. He added that all journalists associations must cooperate with relevant ministries and institutions to provide vocational training to their staff and agents to keep up with the developments of digital media technology that can help their work can be conducted quickly and effectively and create new opportunities to tackle unpredictable future challenges. Since Cambodia is assuming the 2022 ASEAN chairmanship and hosting the 32 Southeast Asian Game and Asian Para Game in 2023, Prime Minister Hun Sen asked the media to participate in covering these events. In order to increase solidarity and strengthen the partnership between the royal government and news media, the COVID-19 pandemic over the last 2 years prevented the royal government from holding this important gathering.
The new UN Secretary General Special Envoy Noeleen Heyzer recommended Prime Minister Hun Sen for a successful visit to Myanmar and said that going forward, it is expected that he will be able to work with the United Nations to find other solutions in the region. She made this comment during a video conference with the Prime Minister on Thursday morning. EAC News reporter Darshana Gauchan has more details.
On Thursday morning, Prime Minister Hun Sen had a conversation with Special Envoy Noeleen Heyzer via video conference during which she raised a number of issues on Myanmar's progress and future direction for a solution to the ongoing crisis. During the meeting, Prime Minister Hun Sen stated that the Myanmar issue cannot continue to be stuck as it is and must find a way to break the stalemate and seize the opportunity to negotiate. The Minister delegate attached to the Prime Minister, Kao Kim Hoon, told reporters after the meeting that Prime Minister Hun Sen had stressed that Myanmar issue could not be resolved by either one party and demanded the involvement of other stakeholders, including the United Nations. In response, Special Envoy Noeleen Heyzer stated her support to Prime Minister Hun Sen, stressed the importance of ASEAN in resolving regional issues, and pledged to work with the 2022 ASEAN chair to improve the situation in Myanmar. Minister Kao Kim Hoon stated that the Prime Minister and Special Envoy agreed on the need for urgent work, especially on the cessation of hostilities, the cessation of violence, and the provision of assistance and the dialogue with all stakeholders. He added that Noeleen Heyzer was very thankful to the Prime Minister because the United Nations understands and sees the importance of his actions and the role of regional organizations like ASEAN. The crisis in Myanmar stems from the military coup that took place on 1 February 2021, which saw the arrest of State Councillor Aung San Suu Kyi, President Win Myint, and other ruling party officials by the Myanmar Armed Forces, who declared they would not recognize the November 2020 election results and then handed over the leadership of the country to the Commander-in-Chief of the National Army, General Min Aung Hlaing. The coup has sparked widespread protests in Myanmar as many armed groups oppose this military regime. Myanmar continues to face one of the longest-running civil wars in the world. Prime Minister Hun Sen's visit to Myanmar on 7th to 8th January provided a positive signal for the resumption of peace talks in the country. The Prime Minister has called on ASEAN to establish 2 more mechanisms, a ceasefire coordination mechanism and an aid mechanism to maintain a stable situation which paves the way for the provision of further aid to the country. Darshana Gauchan, EAC News.
A spokesman for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Koi Kun, said on Wednesday that the ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting that was scheduled to be held on 18 and 19 January 2022 in Siem Reap province has been postponed. The spokesman stated that the reason for the meeting's postponement was due to many ASEAN foreign ministers saying that they would have difficulty traveling to attend, but he added that this postponement would not affect the work of Foreign Minister and ASEAN Special Envoy to Myanmar, Prak Sokhonn. Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesman Koi Kyung stated to EAC News that the decision to postpone the AMM retreat was because many ASEAN foreign ministers stated they would have difficulty traveling to Siem Reap to attend the meeting in January. At a press conference held last Saturday, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Deputy Prime Minister Prak Sokhonn, stated that his candidacy for the Special Envoy of the ASEAN Chair on Myanmar would be announced in a closed meeting to be held in Siem Reap on 18 and 19 January. Spokesman Khoi Kong confirmed that this meeting's postponement would not affect the position and role of the ASEAN Special Envoy, as all ASEAN parties had already agreed with this decision after Prime Minister Hun Sen announced Deputy Prime Minister Prak Sokhonn as a Special Envoy earlier this year. The spokesman, however, was not able to confirm when the ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting will be rescheduled to. The ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting, also known as the AMM Retreat, was established in 1967 to be in charge of discussions regarding ASEAN political security cooperation, as well as ASEAN's relations with external parties and within ASEAN. The AMM is held at least 4 times a year and may also convene for special occasions when it is necessary to discuss issues that need urgent attention from ASEAN. The AMM regularly review and discuss efforts to build the ASEAN community, its strategic future direction, and the conduct of ASEAN external relations. Former political activist of CNRP, T. Sovantha, said that Sam Rainsy's claim to take more than 400 pages of a conversation between her and the Prime Minister is not a true story, and that this was clarified by the Cambodian courts for her already in 2016. She added that the fact that Sam Rainsy raised this issue again shows his level of political knowledge and how he has no wisdom or new ideas to continue in politics. EAC News reporter Darshana Gauchan has more details.
T. Sovantha wrote on her Facebook page on Thursday morning, urging Sam Rainsy to expose and promote the younger generation of the opposition rather than use old stories to do politics like this. She wrote saying that she had seen many young dissidents, both local and foreign, who had good ability, goodwill, and had been loyal to him to this day. Thus, Sam Rainsy should be promoting this new young generation and not bringing up old stories that concern her. She asked that Sam Rainsy forget about her and not bother her anymore, as she wants to live a normal life and participate in helping local people, helping the country to the best of her ability. T. Sovantha's reaction comes after Sam Rainsy yesterday posted an article in which he asked the messaging app company Line to confirm an alleged message conversation between Prime Minister Hun Sen and T. Sovantha between 2016 and 2017. Previously, in December 2017, the Phnom Penh Municipal Court gave a verdict on Sam Rainsy's case in connection with 2 defamation lawsuits filed by Prime Minister Hun Sen and T. Sovantha over Sam Rainsy's claim that Prime Minister Hun Sen gave $1 million to T. Sovantha in exchange for attacking the CNRP based on a 400-page message exchange. The court ordered Sam Rainsy to pay $1 million in compensation to Prime Minister Hun Sen and another $500,000 to T. Sovantha. Darshana Gauchan, EAC News.
A collection of 28 Cambodian cultural artifacts will be returned to Cambodia from a private collector in the United States. The repatriation of these invaluable artifacts comes through the cooperative efforts of the Royal Government of Cambodia and the U.S. government, as well as the cooperation of the private collector state. EAC News reporter Chamron Red said has the story.
A press release issued by the Ministry of Cultures and Fine Arts said that the United States Attorney Office for the Southern District of New York and Homeland Security Investigation filed a civic forfeitures action for 28 Cambodian cultural artifacts and seized the sculptures from the late private collector Douglas Ledford. Among the artifacts is a large sculpture of Ganesh that is believed to have been taken from Kokke Temple, where witnesses report this state was removed from about 2 decades ago. This particular statue was listed by the Antiquities Coalition in 2020 as one of the top 10 most wanted looted statues in the world. The Minister of Cultures and Fine Arts, Phung Sakona, has stated that this sculpture of Ganesh is another astonishing example of the brilliance of our ancestor. Ganesh, the Hindu god with an elephant head, is widely known for its wisdom and power to overcome obstacles, and its return home will be a momentous occasion for Cambodia. She stated that another artifacts to be returned including a sandstone Buddha sculpture from 7th to 8th century, a 10th century Hindu god Vishnu, and a 10th century bronze image of the Hindu goddess Lakshmi, and added that this current patriotism effort show Cambodia continued commitment to finding and bringing back the soul of ancestors who had been taken from the motherland, including during the period of war in the country. She continued that the ministry was thrilled that the private collectors agreed to cooperate with U.S. authorities and returns a large collection of statues, and further stated that the ministry encourages other collectors and museums to follow these examples and contact them to discuss repatriation of these stolen artifacts to their full right owner. The minister expressed her gratitude to Prime Minister Hun Sen for his leadership and win-win policy, which allowed for the restoration of peace in Cambodia and made it possible for the soul of Khmer ancestors who depart from their motherland during the war and conflict to finally return. She also thanked the U.S. Attorney Office, Homeland Security Investigation, and all relevant authorities involved both abroad and in Cambodia, including the U.S. Embassy in Cambodia and the Ministry of Culture's own team of archaeologists and researchers, for their all effort in the returns of these artifacts. She particularly extended a special thanks to Bradley J. Gardens of Edenbridge, Asia, and Steven Hamburg of Hamburg Bar LLP, who have both spent many years working with the Ministry of Culture to help negotiate and facilitate the returns of stolen Cambodian cultural artifacts. Jumrong Rajiset, EAC News.
The Phnom Penh Capital Administration has set a date for the 4th dose vaccination campaign to start for civil servants under and in the capital administration, as well as for the general population from Friday, 14th January. EAC News reporter Siri Pokong has the details.
In the announcement made by the Phnom Penh Capital Administration, the 4-dose vaccines will be available for health officials, leaders, civil servants, and staff of the Phnom Penh Administration from 14 to 15 January, and for staff of departments around the Phnom Penh Administration from 16 to 17 January. For the Phnom Penh Municipal Police Commissioner and the Department of Land Management, 4-dose vaccines will begin on 18 January, and for the Bus Authority, the Phnom Penh Municipal Market Commission, and private health workers on 19 January. For officials who miss the vaccine on the stated days, there will be an additional day on 20 January for them to get the vaccine. The general population over the age of 60 will be vaccinated from 21 to 31 January, and those over the age of 18 will be vaccinated from 1 to 14 February. The royal government mechanism to accelerate the vaccination of the booster dose and the 4th dose was made in response to the recent Omicron outbreak, which has so far infected 28 cases in the community. However, in this regard, Prime Minister Hun Sen has also stated that the condition for receiving the booster dose must be in accordance with the specified health status. If more than 4 months have not yet passed since getting the 3rd dose, health authorities or doctors will not be able to authorize the 4th dose jab, as it will not guarantee safety. Sri Pokong, EAC News.
Cambodia has reported 34 new COVID-19 infections. All of the cases were detected to be Omicron variant, 12 of which were new local transmissions and 24 imported cases. The total number of Omicron cases, including both local and imported infections, is now at 277. There have been 14 patient recoveries and once again, no deaths reported. Cambodia's COVID-19 case tally has now climbed to 120,718. The death toll stands at 3,015. The total number of patients treated successfully has reached 117,057. The case tally for important cases has climbed to 20,106. Currently, there are 644 active patients being treated in Cambodia. The differences between Russia and NATO over Ukraine will be difficult to bridge. The head of the Atlantic Alliance, Jens Stoltenberg, has said on Wednesday, after 4 hours of talks where Moscow pressed its demands for security guarantees from the West.
NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg says that there are significant differences between NATO allies and Russia, and that these differences will not be easy to bridge. but is still a positive sign that all NATO allies and Russia sat down together to engage on substantive topics. Russia has forced the West to come to the negotiating table by massing some 100,000 troops near the border with Ukraine, a former Soviet republic that aspires to join NATO.
Russia raised the proposals that they published in December aimed at addressing their security concerns. These include demands to stop admitting any new members to NATO and to withdraw forces from Eastern allies. Allies on their side reaffirmed NATO's open door policy and the right for each nation to choose its own security arrangements. Allies made clear that they will not renounce their ability to protect and defend each other, including with presence of troops in the eastern part of the alliance. On membership and on NATO's open door, all allies are united on the core principle that each and every nation has the right to choose its own path. This is enshrined in a lot of fundamental documents, many different documents, which are the foundation for European security. And therefore also allies totally agree that it is only Ukraine and 30 allies that can decide when Ukraine is ready to become a NATO member. No one else has anything to say, and of course Russia doesn't have a veto on whether Ukraine can become a NATO member. So Russia has military forces in Georgia, in Ukraine, in Crimea, and also in Moldova. And these forces are there without the consent of the governments of these countries. They are uninvited and not welcomed. And NATO allies, also in the meeting today, called on Russia to withdraw those forces and to respect the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Georgia, of Ukraine, of Moldova. NATO is a defensive alliance. We have never forced or coerced any nation into our alliance. So this idea that, for instance, NATO enlargement is aggressive, absolutely not true. And this is deterrence, this is defensive, and the purpose is to preserve peace. It's not to provoke conflict, but to preserve peace, prevent conflict. And in this way, and of course we will, and if Russia once again uses force against Ukraine and further invades Ukraine, then we have to seriously look into the need to further increase our presence in the eastern part of the alliance.
Russia denies planning to invade but says it needs a series of guarantees to its own security, including a halt to any further NATO expansion and a withdrawal of alliance forces from Central and Eastern Europe nations that joined the alliance after the Cold War. The NATO head has said any use of Russian force against Ukraine would be a serious political mistake for which Russia would pay a high price. He has reiterated NATO's position that only Ukraine and NATO can decide whether the country becomes a member. However, Stoltenberg said NATO was ready for further talks with Moscow on issues including arms control and missile deployments. Russia has asked for more time to come back with an answer on this matter. Stoltenberg's remarks made clear that there had been no breakthrough at the talks 2 days after Russian and U.S. diplomats met in Geneva and reported to narrowing of their differences.
Londoners have called for British Prime Minister Boris Johnson to apologize on Wednesday after revelations of a Bring Your Own Booze party at Downing Street during a COVID-19 lockdown.
Opposition lawmakers have called for Prime Minister Boris Johnson to resign, and some from his own Conservative Party have also said he should quit if he is found to have broken strict laws his government brought in to prevent the spread of COVID-19. In London, law student Daniel Miller has said Prime Minister Johnson was in a shocking position and called on the Conservative Party to take responsibility for the scandal.
I certainly should apologise. It's such an embarrassing position to be in, frankly, for him and for the country as a whole, of which he is supposedly a figurehead. The fact that we still don't entirely know the truth of what happened, and the fact that there's been so much denial and then contradiction of that denial, especially through this new Dominic Cummings revelation, which is always a bit dodgy, it's a shocking position to be in. And yes, he should apologise, and hopefully someone in the Conservative Party will take responsibility for it.
Yes, absolutely. I think he's handled it terribly, everything. But fundamentally, if you can't get people that you directly employ and potentially yourself to follow the rules, then you should definitely apologise for it.
100%, because so many of us haven't got to see our loved ones over certain periods since COVID, and they just break the rules and do what they want. And they've been doing gatherings, they've been probably seeing their families, and a lot of us haven't. And we don't know where the years have gone since COVID, and they just do what they want. So yeah, ridiculous.
The Prime Minister and his partner Carrie had mingled with about 40 staff in the garden of Downing Street after his principal private secretary, Martin Reynolds, sent an email invitation for the party using the pronoun we. Johnson, who won a landslide election victory in 2019, has faced intense scrutiny over the past month after a video emerged showing his staff laughing and joking about at a different party also held in Downing Street during the 2020 Christmas lockdown. This latest scandal, if substantiated by an internal inquiry, would be the most damaging yet for Johnson's future. His own lawmakers show signs of losing patience after a series of scandals, and polls show Johnson's Conservative Party slipping behind Labour.
The new government of Kazakhstan took office after being sworn in on Wednesday. The first meeting of the new government was presided over by the country's new Prime Minister Alikan Ismailov, who was nominated by Kazakh President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev 1 day ago.
The Parliament of Kazakhstan elected Ali Khan Ismailov as their new Prime Minister on Tuesday. The 49-year-old official previously served as Kazakhstan Finance Minister from 2018 to 2020. In 2019, he became the first deputy prime minister in the cabinet, which was dismissed by President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev during last week's violent protests in the country that began over spiking fuel price. After a day of fierce demonstration in the resource-rich Central Asian nation, during which Tokayev ordered the police and army to shoot protesters on site, around 9,900 people have been arrested. Foreign troops are also said to withdraw from the country, Tokayev has told Parliament on Tuesday. The main mission of the Collective Security Treaty Organization troops has been completed. Russian President Vladimir Putin, who sent troops across the border into Kazakhstan to help quell the unrest, has accused external force of orchestrating the raids. He has said, the events in Kazakhstan are not the first and far from the last attempt to interfere in the internal affairs of our state from the outside. At the meetings held both online and offline, the new Prime Minister Ismailov stressed that the primary tasks for the current government are to fulfill the instructions of President Tokayev, improve the qualities of people's lives, sustain the economic growth momentum, combat the COVID-19 pandemic, repair the damage caused by the recent raid, and pull the country out of the massive crisis. The situation in Kazakhstan has become more stable now. Over 20 airports in the country, 18 have resumed their operation. All railway stations are open and access restrictions on national highway have been lifted. Meanwhile, the public transport system and passenger rail transport system in the city have resumed operation as well. Violent protests sparked by fuel price hike rocked Kazakhstan for several days, leading to multiple deaths and many injuries. The press service of the president said on Sunday that some 5,800 people were detained in Kazakhstan amid the raids, including numbers of foreigners. In response to the protests, Tokayev has accepted the previous government's resignation and has sought help from the Collective Security Treaty Organization to put an end to the mounting unrest.
Now for a look at Newsweek International headlines this Thursday, 13th of January.
A large explosion on a road leading to the international airport in Somalia's capital Mogadishu on Wednesday killed at least 8 people and injured 9 others, as reported by health officials. The road also services a major police academy and compound where United Nations and foreign government staff members and officials reside. It is the latest attack to hit Somalia's capital as the country grapples with political infighting and growing humanitarian crisis. The bombing, part of a string of attacks blamed on the Al-Qaeda-linked Al-Shabaab extremist group that has crippled the country in recent months, comes as the country's leaders struggle to resolve a political crisis that has distracted the government from the deteriorating security situation. Somali Memo, a new website affiliated with Al-Shabaab, has said the militants have claimed responsibility for the attack on Wednesday. It said the group had targeted a convoy of vehicles carrying white security officers. The group aims to overthrow the central government and impose a strict interpretation of the Islamic law. It carries out frequent gun and bomb attacks on security and government targets, but also on civilians. It also carries out attacks against African Union peacekeeping troops.
Venezuela's state-owned oil company, PDVSA, on Wednesday has blamed an explosion along a major gasoline pipeline on criminal sabotage, adding that the line would be repaired swiftly. Authorities in Venezuela's eastern Anzoátegui state reported a blast late on Tuesday, which State Governor Luis José Marcano stated was presumably caused by attempts to perforate the pipeline. PDVSA has said the pipeline distributes gasoline throughout Venezuela's eastern states, adding that it had deployed all available teams to repair the breach and prevent service disruptions. There was no immediate confirmation of who was responsible for the blast or whether it caused casualties. Venezuela faces gasoline shortage following years of divestment in the country's refineries, which can process 1.3 million barrels a day but operates at low capacity.
Oh, there it is.
4 people, including a 2-month-old infant, have survived after a helicopter crash outside the church in West Philadelphia on Tuesday. A drone video shows debris and remnants of the medical helicopter outside the Drexel Hill United Methodist Church, which first responders and emergency vehicles is standing by in the densely populated residential neighborhood. The chopper carrying the baby, a nurse and 2 helicopter crew members, was on its way to a Philadelphia hospital on Tuesday afternoon when it crashed on the front steps of the church. All 4 occupants were able to self-extricate without sustaining life-threatening injuries, officials have reported. An Upper Darby police superintendent told local media it was an absolute miracle, that no one has injured and that no trees or power lines were brought down in the crash.
After the break, a look at the latest sports news.
EAC News' audience is growing. Our YouTube channel has over 150,000 verified subscribers. To mark the milestone, we've received the Silver Creator Award from YouTube. It's given to channels with over 100,000 subscribers. YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki says the award celebrates EAC News' hard work and incredible achievement. She says we brought a unique voice and style to the world, but have also created valuable connections and built a community along the way. The next milestone we're going for is 1 million subscribers, and we'd really like that Gold Creator Award. So if you're not already a subscriber, head to YouTube and search for EAC News. Subscribers get alerts when the daily Roundup is premiering and live events are streaming. Get all the latest breaking news and updates from Cambodia in English. The EAC News channel on YouTube. Cambodia made clear. If it's happening and you need to know about it, you'll get it all right here. EAC News brings you updates and breaking news in English across all of our platforms and channels. The EAC News app, YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and our website www.eacnews.asia. Join me, Andrew Barnes-Roberts, and the rest of the EAC News team every day on your favorite channels. EAC News, Cambodia made clear.
Premier League champions Manchester City posted record revenues for the 2020-2021 season as they returned to profitability despite playing most of the campaign without fans present in stadiums due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The club said in an annual report published on Wednesday that they recorded a total revenue of up to £570 million, worth $780 million for the year ending June 30. The figure beat the previous record of £535 million record in 2018 and 2019, the last complete season before the pandemic struck. It is the third time in 5 seasons Manchester City has broken the £500 million barrier, while they also reported a profit of £2.4 million. City won the league title and the Carabao Cup in 2020-2021 when they also reached the Champions League final and the FA Cup semi-finals. The club's matchday income was down 90-80% compared to the previous year, but was offset by revenue from other streams, particularly driven by broadcast revenue, which increased by 56% from the year before to £297 million. Commercial income was up to 10% to £270 million thanks to partners such as Cadbury and Exitrader. Chief Executive Officer Fernando Soriano has said that, from a business perspective, they were pleased to return to profitability, having successfully navigated the revenue challenges created by the pandemic. He further added, "COVID-19 did not stop us, and we continue to grow, innovate, and develop new ideas. We are hopeful that the pandemic-related challenges from the last 2 seasons will continue to subside." City reported a net loss of £126 million for the 2019-2020 season after posting record profits of over £10 million in the previous years. City lead the Premier League with 53 points after 21 games. They hold second place at Chelsea, who are 10 points behind on Saturday. World number 1 tennis player Novak Djokovic has been seen in photos attending a EuroLeague basketball game on December 14. The 20-time Grand Slam champion, who confirmed in his airport interview that he was unvaccinated, has said that he tested positive for COVID-19 2 days later, on December 16. The tennis player was released from immigration detention in Australia by a court judge and is currently training for the Australian Open. But many Melbourne residents have voiced their frustrations over the ongoing Djokovic saga. In a late statement posted on Wednesday, Djokovic said that he had been subject to misinformation surrounding his health and travels, but admitted to doing a newspaper interview with knowledge of a positive COVID-19 result last month. Djokovic said, "While I went home after the interview to isolate for the required period, on reflection, this was an error of judgment and I accepted that I should have rescheduled this commitment." The tennis player was also seen at other events through his social media postings on December 16, including an event where he was honored with a stamp by the Serbian Postal Services. The tennis player was seen playing tennis in the streets of Belgrade on December 15 and later training in Spain before finally arriving in Australia on January 5. It remains unclear whether Djokovic, the winner of a record equaling 20 Grand Slams title, will be allowed to compete at next week's Australian Open amid a dispute with the Australian government over his medical exemption for the COVID-19 vaccine. Djokovic's announcement last week that he had a vaccine exemption was met with uproar in Australia, which is currently battling a wave of Omicron-driven COVID-19 infections, and where more than 90% of the adult population has been double vaccinated.
I'm not sure what will happen because now it has attracted so much international media attention, and now it's going to look probably unfavourable in an international spotlight if his visa is cancelled. But his visa probably should be cancelled because he's not here under the guidelines. It's really disappointing that Tennis Australia has allowed for this to happen, because the Australian Open is more than one tennis player.
Australia's Immigration Minister Alex Hawke was still considering on Thursday whether to cancel Djokovic's visa, a decision that could come at any time. Melbourne resident Tyler Agnew said it was anyone's guess what Hawke would do, but said he believes the Serbian should be booted.
What he should is kick him out. What he will, I honestly, who knows? After hearing about what Djokovic said about how he made mistakes on his form and those little slips, I reckon he'll kick him out. No one can stuff up that badly on little things like that. Like, that's just pretty basic stuff. So yeah, I reckon he should and will boot him.
Djokovic has been training and preparing to defend his title at the Australian Open after a judge ordered his release from an immigration detention center earlier this week, overturning a decision to cancel his visa by border officials. It still remains to be seen whether Djokovic will be allowed to participate in the tennis championship and have the chance to break the current men's single record with a 21 first Grand Slam title. Reigning Dakar Rally champions suffered contrasting fortunes on Wednesday, with French veteran Stefan Peter Hansen winning the 10th stage in the car category, while Argentine motorcycle rider Kevin Benavides suffered technical problems and retired from the rally. The stage victory was a first on this year's event for Mr. Dakar Peter Hansen, a 14-time winner on 2 wheels and 4, and now driving an electric hybrid Audi, who dropped out of the contention for the title in Saudi Arabia last week. Qatar's Nasser Al Attiyah retained a comfortable lead with 2 stages remaining before the finish in Jeddah on Friday, although closest rival Sebastian Loeb cut the gap to 32 minutes and 40 seconds. Loeb, a 9-time World Rally champion driving for the Bahrain Raid Extreme team, was 5th on the 375-kilometer stage from Wadi al-Dawasir to Bisha, with Peter Hansen leading Audi teammate Carlos Sainz. 3 times Dakar winner Al Attiyah was 7th, 5 minutes and 50 seconds off the pace, and also collected a 5 minutes penalty for a breach of seatbelt regulations. Benavides ended the defense of his title when his KTM motorcycle broke down 133 kilometers into the stage and was unable to fix it. He won last year riding a Honda to become the first South American to win the event, now in its 44th edition on a motorcycle. The 33-year-old had been fifth overall, some 10 minutes behind his Austrian teammate and overnight leader Matthias Walkener, who ended the day fourth with France's Adrien van Beveren taking over at the top. Britain's Sam Sunderland was second overall, nearly 60 minutes adrift in a stage won by Australian Toby Price on a KTM. Alright, let's have a look at how the weather is going to be playing out at tomorrow. And finally, a new virtual reality experience allowing users to visit Notre Dame Cathedral through all the ages launched on Wednesday, giving the public an alternative way of discovering the Catholic Cathedral while awaiting its reopening in 2024.
The immersive experience takes visitors through a 45-minute-long trip, complete with visual and sound effects, going from the construction of the iconic Parisian landmark to the fire that ravaged it in 2019. Visitor and representative for image and media for BNP Paribas Bank, Karine Garçon, was at the launch event in Puteaux near Paris.
It is quite impressive. I would say that you are a bit anxious at the start and then you completely forget about the fact that you are in an enclosed space because the environment is absolutely magnificent. You better not be afraid of heights. However, it gives quite unusual feelings.
The areas virtually recreated include the surroundings of the cathedral as it was being built in the Middle Ages, the inside of the building during a service, or the top of one of its towers, among others. French historical figures such as French architect Eugène Viollet-le-Duc or former French President and General Charles de Gaulle guide people through the various areas covered. The cultural and visitor outreach for the French Center for National Monuments, Edouard de Lumley, has shown his enthusiasm for the experience.
I am very impressed by the fact that this allows a dive back in time. It is not only about seeing Notre Dame again, but about seeing Notre Dame throughout history. The first few images of the medieval alleys and so on, I found is very strong, and I think it works formidably well.
The project was developed over 2 years by a team of 50 people employed by French virtual reality startup Emissive, including various historians and architects. It is fully financed by French telecom company Orange. It will be accessible for a fee of €30 or $34 per person and is expected to open later on in other cities around the world such as New York, Rome, and Moscow. The cathedral, which featured in Victor Hugo's classic novel The Hunchback of Notre Dame, is a UNESCO World Heritage, which used to see 13 million visitors every year. On 15 April 2019, a fire broke out beneath the roof of the Notre Dame in Paris. By the time the structure fire was extinguished, the building's spire had collapsed, most of its roof had been destroyed, and its upper walls were severely damaged. Extensive damage to the interior was prevented by its stone-vaulted ceiling, which largely contained the burning roof as it collapsed. Many works of art and religious relics were moved to safety early in the emergency, but others suffered smoke damage and some of the exterior art was damaged or destroyed. French President Emmanuel Macron said that the cathedral would be restored by 2024 and launched a fundraising campaign which brought in pledges of over €1 billion. Notre Dame is set to reopen to the public in 2024 as Paris welcomes the 2024 Olympic Games.
Ça fait 3 ans que la cathédrale est fermée.
The cathedral has been closed for 3 years, so just imagine. That means 40 million frustrated people that would otherwise visit. If we open in 2024, we are going to wait for another 3 years. So, this is the occasion for believers, visitors, and tourists to be able to say, well, we have had the chance to see Notre Dame in another way. The virtual leads to reality.
Le virtuel amène au réel.
Thanks for watching the Daily Roundup on the EAC News channel. For more breaking news and updates, check our website eacnews.asia. You can also search for EAC News on your Telegram or in your favorite app store. More from the EAC News team tomorrow night at 8 p.m. I will see you then.